The galaxy was old. Billions of worlds thrived under the rule of powerful empires. Intelligent species had grown beyond mere survival. They commanded armies of machines, manipulated stars, and wove politics that spanned centuries. Yet in all their grandeur they shared one belief: humans were weak. The first human ship appeared on the edge of the Norien sector. A sleek, unassuming craft, barely more than a speck against the glittering black of space. Its captain, Elena Voss, stood on the bridge, scanning the alien readings. Her crew of 40 was tense but disciplined. Humanity had trained for this moment for decades, the first contact with the galaxy's oldest civilizations. "You really think they'll even notice us?" muttered Lieutenant Ramick, a wiry engineer with a nervous twitch. His tentacles fidgeted as he tapped the holographic interface. "They will," Elena said, her voice calm, hiding the storm of anxiety inside her. "We may be small, but we are smart. That counts for something out here." The Norien fleet was massive. Ships shaped like jagged crescents and molten glass hovered like predators around a distant gas giant. Their ambassador, a towering being called VRWH, regarded the humans with visible amusement. "Humans," VRWH's voice thundered, a low vibration felt more than heard. "You dare enter our space with such fragility?" Elena's jaw tightened. "We are here to observe and negotiate. We come in peace." A word heavier than any weapon. The Norians laughed, a sound that shook the human ship. "Peace? You are barely a footnote in the galaxy. Your planet is tiny. Your bodies, so weak. You could not survive a day in the wilds of the Norien homeworld." The humans did not flinch. Elena knew they expected intimidation. They thrived on it. "Perhaps," she said. "But humans survive. We adapt. And we learn faster than any species you have known." VRWH's laughter ended abruptly. His eyes, dark as obsidian, narrowed. "Bold words for creatures who depend on luck and tools. We will allow you to demonstrate your great intelligence in the games of diplomacy. Fail and you will leave as ashes." Elena nodded. Inside her mind raced. Humans could not match the Norians in firepower, but they could outthink them. Strategy, psychology, deception. These were human weapons sharper than any laser. The council chamber aboard the flagship was a palace of alien architecture. Twisting spires of iridescent metal, floating platforms, and ceilings that shimmered with captured stars. Humans stood on a small platform, dwarfed by the immense alien delegates. Every species in the sector had come to see the fragile newcomers. Whispers traveled through the crowd. "See how small they are?" a reptilian delegate hissed. "They will be gone by tomorrow," a crystalline being added, its body humming with energy. Elena raised her hand and projected a holographic star map. "We have analyzed your fleets, your resource lines, and your political factions. We have questions. We observe weaknesses you may not even see yourselves. Let us propose a trade agreement that benefits all." A ripple of shock passed through the council. Boldness in diplomacy was rare in these halls. But the Norians only smiled, sharp and cruel. "You presume much," VRWH said. "Your mind is small. Your lifespan is short. How can you hope to understand the galaxy's politics?" Elena's gaze was steady. "Perhaps because we see threats clearly. Perhaps because we know how to survive when everything seems lost. That is what humans do. That is how we thrive." The Norians leaned back, unconvinced. Yet, a shadow of uncertainty flickered across their faces. This was the first crack in the galaxy's assumption. Humans were not just fragile, they were unafraid. Back on the human ship, Elena and her crew prepared for the next phase. Survival in alien society, understanding alien technology, and if necessary, escape. Humans had learned long ago that underestimation could be a weapon. "What's our play?" Ramick asked. Elena stared at the stars beyond the viewport. "Observe. Learn. And when the time comes, surprise them. The galaxy thinks we are weak. Let us show them how wrong they are." Above them, the Norien stars shone cold and distant. Yet for the first time, a tiny human ship reflected a light of its own. A light born of resilience, cunning, and the quiet certainty that the galaxy's first mistake was underestimating humanity. And deep in the Norien council chambers, a thought began to stir. Perhaps these fragile creatures were more dangerous than any of them could imagine. The stage was set. The fragile ones had arrived. And the galaxy would soon learn that survival, cunning, and an unyielding spirit could surpass power, technology, and fear. The Norien Council had not seen a species like humans before. Their arrogance was shattered not by strength, but by audacity. Elena Voss and her crew moved through the corridors of the flagship like shadows, observing the grand halls filled with delegates of every form. slithering, crystalline, winged, and some whose forms defied description entirely. Ramek whispered as they walked, "How do we even begin? They could crush us without blinking." Elena smiled faintly. "We don't need to be strong. We need to be clever. That is always enough." At the center of the council chamber was the Grand Arbiter, a being of shifting light and dark, its form impossible to comprehend. "Humans," it spoke, its voice a chorus of tones, "you may speak but your words must carry proof. Do you understand our laws of diplomacy? Deceit is punished with oblivion." Elena bowed. "We understand. Humans value truth, in survival. We hope to demonstrate that we can bring balance, not chaos." The council laughed. The Reptary delegate, with scaled arms and serpentine eyes, hissed, "Balance? They are but children playing with fire." The first test came swiftly. The council presented the humans with a simulation of a contested star system. Valuable energy nodes, ancient artifacts, and multiple alien factions competing for control. Many had failed. Many had been expelled. The simulation was a test of strategy, negotiation, and cunning, a microcosm of galactic politics. Elena's crew huddled around the holographic table. Each human studied the simulated systems with intense focus, noting patterns, alliances, and hidden weaknesses. "They expect brute force," Elena said, "but the real battle is perception. We will win by making them think we are weaker than we are, then manipulate the outcome subtly." Hours passed. Humans debated quietly, calculated moves, and used psychological tactics. When they finally presented their solution, it was deceptively simple. They brokered a temporary alliance between two alien factions while secretly rerouting energy flows, ensuring no single faction gained absolute advantage. The council watched, their alien expressions unreadable. Vierwich, the Noryen ambassador, finally spoke. "Impressive, for creatures with barely a century of space travel experience. You used diplomacy like a blade, not a shield." Elena inclined her head. "We fight with all tools available, Vierwich. Strategy, intelligence, and adaptability. That is what makes humans survive and thrive." The council murmured, stunned. For the first time, whispers weren't of amusement, they were of concern. That night, humans returned to their ship, weary but victorious. Elena reviewed the data. "They're starting to take notice. But notice is not enough. We must learn more. Study their fleets, their politics, their weaknesses. The galaxy assumes we are fragile. We will use that against them." Suddenly, alarms blared. Ramek rushed to the console. "Captain, an unidentified ship is emerging from hyperspace near the outer rim of the Noryen sector. It's massive." Elena's heart quickened. "Show me." The screen revealed a vessel the size of a small moon, its hull bristling with weapons and shields that pulsed with eerie green energy. "The Kalthari," she whispered. The Kalthari were a merciless warrior species known for exterminating civilizations that defied them. And now they were heading straight for the Noryen sector. "They'll obliterate this system in hours," Ramek said. Elena's mind raced. The humans had no fleet, barely any defenses. But they had one thing the Kalthari did not: cunning. "We must warn the council," she said. "But subtly. If they panic, they may destroy each other before the Kalthari arrive. We can use this to our advantage." The humans projected themselves back into the council chamber. Elena addressed the delegates with calm urgency. "A threat approaches, a Kalthari warship. Its intent is conquest. We propose a plan that ensures survival for all factions if they will listen." Vierwich's eyes narrowed. "And why should we trust you? You are the smallest of creatures. We are capable of defense." Elena's gaze was unwavering. "Because your strength alone may not save you. The Kalthari exploit arrogance. They prey on overconfidence. Allow us to guide the response. We have calculated the enemy's path, tactics, and weaknesses. Cooperation through intellect can outmatch brute force." The council debated feverishly. Delegates shouted over each other, accusing humans of deception. Elena stood firm, presenting detailed star maps, energy readings, and predicted movements of the Kalthari. Slowly, the murmur shifted to tentative trust. In a sudden twist, the humans suggested a risky maneuver. Lure the Kalthari into a narrow asteroid field and use the Noryen ship's superior energy projectors to trap them. Many thought it suicide. Yet, Elena had already calculated every variable, contingency, and fallback. When the Kalthari arrived, their massive ship blotted out the stars. The Noryen fleet bristled with energy weapons ready to defend. Humans coordinated from the flagship, issuing precise commands and adjustments. The asteroid trap, combined with human-calculated positioning, worked flawlessly. The Kalthari ship became ensnared, unable to maneuver. Energy beams from Noryen and allied ships converged, forcing the invaders into retreat. The council was stunned. The fragile humans had orchestrated a victory using nothing but brains, planning, and courage. Vierwich approached Elena, voice quiet for the first time. You saved us. Humans, perhaps you are not the weaklings we assumed. Perhaps you are different. Elena met his gaze. Different enough that underestimating us is dangerous. Remember that. That night, the humans returned to their ship, exhausted but triumphant. They had not yet conquered the galaxy. They had not fired a single superweapon. Yet they had demonstrated something far more powerful: the ability to survive, adapt, and outthink a species that believed itself supreme. Above them, the stars burned cold and indifferent. Below, the Noryen Council whispered among themselves, a new caution in their voices. And somewhere in the dark reaches of space, other species began to take notice. The fragile ones, underestimated by all, were far from fragile at all. Humanity had survived its first test, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Kalthari retreat left the galaxy whispering. Across star systems, ambassadors and spies sent messages that humans, tiny, fragile humans, had orchestrated a near-impossible victory. Fear mixed with awe. But humans did not celebrate. They understood that survival was only the first step. The galaxy had yet to see their true capabilities. On the bridge of the human flagship Resolute, Elena Voss studied the holographic star charts. They think we are fragile, she said quietly, but fragility is an advantage. Nobody expects it to bite back. Lieutenant Ramick tapped the console. Captain, intelligence from the Council indicates that multiple factions are considering alliances, or attacks, against us. They fear us more than they admit. Elena nodded. Good. Fear is a tool. But we must act carefully. The galaxy is a chessboard and every move can cost lives. Their next mission was subtle: technology acquisition. Humans could not yet compete ship to ship with the Noryans or the Kalthari. But they could learn, adapt, and integrate alien designs faster than anyone else. The first target was the Cellin Archive, a massive floating library orbiting a gas giant in the Trivian system. It contained centuries of tactical knowledge and experimental propulsion blueprints. Guarded by crystalline Cellin sentinels, the archive was considered impenetrable. Elena assembled a small strike team of engineers, hackers, and tactical specialists. We won't fight, she emphasized. We will observe, infiltrate, and extract what we need. Precision, not force, is our weapon. Using a combination of human ingenuity and alien-inspired stealth protocols, the team infiltrated the archive. They moved silently through corridors that shimmered with light and energy. Every step was calculated. Every security pattern noted and bypassed. Hours later, they emerged with more than data. They had downloaded schematics for faster-than-light drives, energy-efficient shields, and adaptive weapon systems. Humanity had gained knowledge worth centuries. Meanwhile, rumors of human victories and audacity spread. Delegates from other empires began to approach Elena in secret. Some offered trade. Some offered allegiance. Others whispered warnings. The humans were dangerous. A winged alien called Cirith approached the Resolute under a truce flag. Captain Voss, it said, feathers bristling, your actions against the Kalthari, clever. You saved many lives. But understand this, others will not forgive your interference. You are changing the balance of power. Elena smiled faintly. We did not change it. We revealed it. The galaxy has always been dangerous. We just happen to be able to navigate it better than most. Ciritha's eyes narrowed. Your audacity borders on recklessness. Perhaps, Elena admitted. But sometimes the only way to survive is to act when others hesitate. Back on the bridge, Ramick studied the readings. Captain, the Noryans are starting covert patrols near human-controlled sectors. They're nervous, maybe even planning a strike. Elena's fingers traced the ship's console. Let them watch. Let them underestimate us again. The more they fear, the more predictable they become. Fear is a mirror, it reveals intent. And then, the first true test of human cunning began. A Noryen strike force, 3 times the size of the human fleet, appeared on the edge of contested space. Their intention was clear: eliminate the humans before they could destabilize the political order further. Elena called her crew. We cannot win by sheer strength, but we can win by controlling the battlefield. Prepare the asteroid field in the Ilian cluster. Position decoys and energy jammers. When they arrive, we will make them believe we are trapped. Then we turned their own formation against them. Hours later, the Noryen fleet entered the asteroid cluster. Human ships scattered, appearing vulnerable, while hidden thrusters adjusted positions in real time. The humans projected false readings, suggesting gaps and weaknesses that did not exist. As the Noryans pursued, their formation tightened, driven by greed and overconfidence. Elena waited until every ship was in position. Then, a precise sequence of energy pulses and asteroid detonations created confusion. Noryen vessels collided with each other, their weapons firing blindly, while human ships struck from angles no alien commander expected. The Noryen fleet suffered heavy losses. Only after retreat did they realize they had been outsmarted. The galaxy whispered of humans again, not just as survivors, but as strategists capable of turning raw intelligence into decisive victory. In the aftermath, Elena addressed her crew. Remember, it is not enough to survive. We must shape perception. Every victory, every decision, must prove that underestimating us is a mistake that could cost billions. Ramek grinned, exhausted. Captain, they'll never see us coming again. No, Elena said, her eyes fixed on the stars. And that is exactly how we will win. Elsewhere, across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed humanity as fragile now began reconsidering their assumptions. Secret envoys approached human settlements, some offering alliances, others observing quietly. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would not soon forget. Humans were not just clever, they were unpredictable. And unpredictability was a weapon stronger than the most powerful fleets. For Elena, it was only the beginning. Knowledge acquired, alliances tested, enemies warned, humans were ready for the next stage. The fragile ones were no longer simply surviving. They were preparing to claim their place among the galaxy's apex species, not through brute force, but through unmatched cunning, adaptability, and resolve. And deep in the shadows of distant systems, fleets of other species began to stir. Whispers spread, the humans had arrived. And they were not to be underestimated. The Noryans never forgave. Their pride had been wounded, their fleets humiliated. Across the Noryen sector, whispered debates became open councils. The humans must be crushed. Yet, even among their most aggressive commanders, doubt lingered. How could such fragile creatures have outsmarted them twice? Elena Voss, aboard the Resolute, was already preparing. Humanity's victories had not gone unnoticed. Other species were watching, some curious, some fearful, and some hungry for alliance. She knew the next battle would not just test survival, it would test strategy at the grandest scale. A transmission arrived from the Noryen High Command. Its tone was formal but cold as ice. Humans of Earth, you have interfered with Noryen sovereignty. Leave the sector immediately or face annihilation. Elena studied the message, her mind already mapping possibilities. They think threats will bend us. Threats never have. She turned to her crew. Prepare for the possibility of war. Every fleet, every drone, every system must be ready. We cannot match them in numbers, but we can outthink them. Weeks later, the Noryans struck. Hundreds of warships emerged from hyperspace, a glittering wave of death designed to crush the humans before they could react. The humans had less than an hour to deploy. Elena commanded calm. Deploy decoys. Initiate the asteroid matrix in the Ilian cluster. We fight where they least expect. Remember, humans survive by thinking faster than their enemies. Let's prove it. The battlefield was a shattered ring of asteroids and drifting space stations, a natural maze humans had studied in simulations. Noryen commanders assumed humans would flee. Instead, the Resolute and its fleet vanished into the field like shadows. As the first Noryen squadrons pursued decoys, the humans struck. Energy projectors hidden behind asteroids fired with surgical precision, disabling shields, jamming communication, and forcing the Noryans into collisions with their own ships. Human fighter drones, tiny but fast and adaptive, exploited every gap in enemy formations. Admiral Voss, Ramek called, they're attempting a pincer on the eastern flank. Elena's fingers danced across the control panel. Lead them. Use their confidence against them. Trigger the secondary pulse in 3, 2, now. A massive energy detonation rippled through the asteroid field, sending Noryen ships tumbling into debris. Communication was lost, formations fractured, and the humans remained untouched. What the Noryans had assumed was chaos was actually a carefully orchestrated trap. Above the battlefield, the Noryen flagship shuddered as the Resolute's new adaptive weapons targeted critical systems. Elena had integrated stolen Cellin technology into human craft, combining speed, agility, and precision in ways the Noryans had never seen. One strike disabled the flagship's propulsion. Another disrupted its energy matrix, leaving it vulnerable. VRYH aboard the flagship screamed over the communication channel. How are you doing this? Elena's voice was calm. You underestimated humans. Again. The Noryen fleet withdrew in chaos. Hundreds of ships had been destroyed or disabled. For the first time in centuries, a smaller, weaker species had decisively routed a primary galactic power in open battle. Across the galaxy, news traveled faster than light. Systems that once laughed at humanity now whispered in fear. The fragile humans of Earth were no longer a curiosity, they were a threat. But victory came with its own lessons. Human engineers analyzed the damage, replenished their drones, and studied the Noryen strategies. Each engagement was a classroom, each error an opportunity. Elena understood that brute strength alone could never secure humanity's place. Adaptation, foresight, and surprise were the true keys. Amid the celebrations, a new concern emerged. Reports indicated other species, watching, learning, plotting, were beginning to see humans as an apex predator. Alliances formed, some seeking protection, others seeking to challenge. Elena realized that the galaxy had shifted. Humans were now central to its balance of power, whether anyone admitted it or not. During a quiet moment on the bridge, Elena spoke to her crew. We've survived our first war and we've turned the tide. But this is only the beginning. They will return. They will adapt. And we will have to be faster, smarter, stronger. Humanity thrives not because we are the biggest or the strongest or the fastest, but because we never stop learning. Ramek leaned back exhausted. Captain, do you think the galaxy is ready for us? Elena smiled faintly, staring at the stars. The galaxy has no choice. We've arrived. And when humanity declares war, or defends itself, the meaning of fear will change forever. In the shadows of distant systems, fleets began to stir. The Noryans were not the only ones shaken. Other empires, long dormant or quietly observing, started preparing. The galaxy had seen the first sparks of human strategy and adaptability, and the fires were only beginning. For humanity, the battle had proven something fundamental. Survival was not enough. Dominance would come not from technology alone, but from mind, courage, and the willingness to act where others hesitated. The fragile ones had shown they could burn brighter than any star in the galaxy. And deep in the Noryen High Command, Veroch muttered in disbelief, "We have fought them, and yet, they have already changed everything." The war across the stars was far from over. But one truth had become undeniable. Humans were no longer underestimated. The fragile species from Earth had stepped onto the galactic stage, and their performance would echo through every system for centuries to come. The Noryans had retreated, but the galaxy had shifted. Word of the humans' victories and cunning spread like wildfire, sparking fear, admiration, and calculation in equal measure. Humanity was no longer a small, fragile species. It was a force to be reckoned with. Yet the galaxy remained a labyrinth of politics, intrigue, and fragile alliances. Victory in battle was only the first step. Elena Voss convened her crew in the ship's war room. Holographic star charts lit the room in pale blue light, displaying contested systems, trade routes, and the positions of countless alien fleets. "We've survived the Noryans," she said. "We've proven that brains and adaptability can overcome brute strength. But the galaxy is more complex than a single enemy. Other species watch us now, and some will seek to control, contain, or destroy what they fear. We must act." Lieutenant Ramek, exhausted but alert, tapped a control panel. "Captain, envoys from the Sirith and Valen sectors are requesting meetings. They want alliances, or at least assurances. Some factions are willing to provide resources, technology, even joint fleets." Elena considered the offers. "We don't make allies out of fear. We make alliances based on mutual benefit. We will accept aid, but we remain independent. Humanity does not bow. Humanity negotiates." The first alliance was subtle. Elena met with Sirith delegates aboard a neutral station orbiting a shattered moon. Winged, regal, and proud, they regarded humans with suspicion and curiosity. "You saved our fleets from the Kalthari," one Sirith diplomat said, feathers ruffling. "Yet your methods, they are unpredictable. Can we trust humans to honor agreements?" Elena inclined her head. "Trust is earned. Observe us in action. Cooperation benefits both parties. Doubt us and we gain nothing, but fear us and you lose more than you know." The Sirith delegation exchanged glances. Fear was a language humans understood better than any alien species. By the end of the meeting, a tentative alliance was formed. The Sirith would provide reconnaissance drones, and in return humans shared tactical analysis and resource mapping. Across the galaxy, other species began to approach with caution. The crystalline Valens offered access to advanced energy shields in exchange for intelligence on the Norians' tactics. The reptiles of the Reptary sector sent envoys to learn how humans had outmaneuvered fleets far larger than their own. Meanwhile, the Norians were regrouping. Their pride wounded, their fleets diminished, they sent spies and saboteurs to human-controlled sectors. Elena anticipated this. Human engineers had already adapted defensive protocols, using predictive algorithms to detect sabotage before it could occur. One night, a transmission arrived from deep space. It was encrypted, filled with warnings of an emerging coalition. The Calthari, the Norians, and another long-dormant species known as the Vornax were quietly amassing forces. Their goal? Eliminate humanity before it became a galactic threat. Elena studied the data. They are predictable in one sense, they fear us. But they are clever enough to form alliances. We must do more than survive. We must ensure that any coalition against humanity fractures before it acts. The next few months became a dance of diplomacy, espionage, and strategic maneuvers. Humans used deception to turn potential enemies against each other, feeding misinformation, forging false treaties, and creating conflicts in distant systems. Each move was subtle, invisible to most, yet it reshaped power across sectors. In one audacious operation, humans orchestrated a leak, suggesting that the Vornax fleet intended to betray the Calthari. Panic rippled through the coalition before it even formed. Fleets withdrew, negotiations collapsed, and humans watched from the shadows, gaining time, territory, and intelligence. "Captain," Ramek said one evening, eyes wide at the reports, "we've never directly fired a shot in this operation. And yet we've destabilized 3 sectors and prevented a coalition from forming. This is human strategy at work." Elena allowed herself a faint smile. Brains before brawn. Adaptability before recklessness. And above all, patience. The galaxy underestimates us, and that will always be our advantage. Still, victory did not mean complacency. Every species learned faster now. Humans were no longer entirely a secret. Espionage, sabotage, and threats increased. Yet each challenge taught humans more, honed their instincts, and proved that ingenuity could surpass even overwhelming force. By the end of the cycle, humans had secured influence in multiple sectors, established trade routes, and gained access to alien technology previously reserved for the oldest species. Systems that once scoffed at humanity now respected, or feared, their presence. Elena stood on the bridge of the Resolute, gazing at the galaxy sprawled before her. "We are no longer observers," she said softly. "We are players. We will not dominate through violence alone. We will dominate through intellect, foresight, and the certainty that humanity never backs down." From the shadows, alien fleets watched and calculated, wondering how these fragile, tiny humans could control so much without firing a single superweapon. The galaxy was learning a dangerous truth. Underestimate humanity and you risk more than defeat. You risk being outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and left in ruins. And deep in hidden war rooms, coalitions that once believed themselves invincible began plotting, realizing with growing dread that the fragile humans from Earth were becoming the ultimate apex species. In the quiet of space, Elena whispered to herself, "They will learn soon enough. When humanity declares total war, the galaxy will understand fear like never before." The shadows had shifted. Alliances were forged and broken, battles had been won without direct conflict, and humanity's reach now touched sectors previously unimaginable. The galaxy had begun to change, and at its center humans stood, strategic, relentless, and terrifyingly adaptable. The galaxy had changed. No longer dismissed as fragile, humanity had become a force to be feared. Yet fear alone was not enough. It was only the beginning. Coalition fleets, long dormant, had united in whispered councils. The Calthari, Norians, and Vornax had joined forces, pooling their ships, weapons, and commanders. Their goal was singular: destroy humanity before it became uncontrollable. Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her hands resting lightly on the console. Around her, officers worked silently, screens glowing with tactical projections, fleet positions, and enemy movements. "They believe overwhelming force will crush us," she said. "Let's show them why humans survive." Lieutenant Ramek, exhausted but alert, tapped a control panel. "Captain, coalition fleets are converging near the Trivian and Ilian sectors. Estimates suggest 300 capital ships, with support squadrons numbering in the thousands. They're expecting us to hide, retreat, or surrender." Elena's eyes glimmered. "Then we'll give them neither. Prepare the asteroid matrices, adaptive drone swarms, and false energy signatures. Let them think they have an advantage, they won't. Across the galaxy, coalition commanders communicated in urgency and frustration. These humans are everywhere, a Vornax admiral hissed, scales bristling. They strike from shadows, disrupt supply lines, and manipulate our intelligence. How can such a tiny species possess such cunning? The Kalthari, ever brutal, roared, "Enough! Crush them now, or our empire will never recover from this humiliation." The war began with a storm. Hundreds of coalition ships jumped into contested space. Humans, appearing outnumbered 10 to 1, spread their fleets into asteroid fields, nebulae, and ruined stations. What the coalition perceived as vulnerability was, in truth, a trap meticulously calculated over weeks. Elena's voice was calm over the bridge comms. Initiate decoy patterns Alpha through Theta. Position drone swarms for maximum disruption. Let them overcommit. Remember, humans survive by seeing opportunities where others see risk. When the coalition struck, the human plan unfolded flawlessly. The asteroid fields erupted in controlled explosions, isolating enemy squadrons and forcing collisions. Drone swarms hacked enemy shields and communications, turning capital ships against each other. Energy projectors adapted mid-battle, predicting enemy trajectories and neutralizing incoming fire with unmatched precision. In the midst of chaos, Elena personally coordinated the human flagship. The Resolute danced through debris, a small vessel outmaneuvering Titanic warships. Each maneuver was calculated, each strike decisive. Humans were not merely surviving, they were rewriting the rules of engagement. Virwich, the Noryan ambassador commander, watched in disbelief as the human flagship crippled his dreadnought-class ships. "Impossible," he shouted. "How can such a vessel outmatch ours?" Elena's voice was steady. "You assumed we were fragile. You assumed you understood humans. You were wrong. Always." The coalition faltered. Miscommunications amplified by human interference caused squadrons to fight each other by accident. The Kalthari flagship attempted a flanking maneuver, only to find itself trapped in an energy net projected by human drones. One by one the massive ships fell, or fled. Amid victory, the human fleet continued to advance strategically, never recklessly. Every engagement was calculated to maximize impact while minimizing risk to civilians, colonies, and human crews. Humanity had learned that true supremacy was not destruction alone. It was precision, efficiency, and adaptability. When the final coalition flagship signaled retreat, Elena allowed herself a brief smile. "We've not just survived," she said. "We've proven that humans do not fight like other species. We think. We adapt. We endure. And when we strike, we dominate." Across the galaxy, intelligence networks buzzed with reports of human prowess. Systems once considered untouchable had been bypassed, fleets that had boasted invincibility lay scattered, and the fragile species from Earth had done it all without the largest armies or deadliest weapons. Yet the victory came with understanding. Humans had faced the apex of galactic power and survived, not because they were strongest but because they were cleverest. Elena addressed her officers, her voice resolute. "Remember this. Every empire we face will underestimate us. Every battle will test our minds before our weapons. Humanity has survived the forge of war. From now on, every challenge will be ours to shape." In the aftermath, alien fleets quietly recalculated. Some sought alliances with humans, hoping to avoid confrontation. Others quietly plotted revenge, wary now of a species that had become unassailable in cunning and adaptability. The galaxy had been changed, not through conquest but through intellect, strategy, and an indomitable will. As the Resolute sailed through the stars, Elena reflected. "We have shown the galaxy what humans can do. They feared us when we were fragile. They mocked us when we were small. Now they must respect us or pay the price." In distant systems, stars twinkled coldly, indifferent to war and politics. Yet humanity had illuminated the galaxy with a new truth, that survival was not enough. That intelligence, adaptability, and relentless resolve could turn fragility into supremacy. And somewhere in the shadows, the remaining forces of the coalition began to stir. They had seen the power of humanity unleashed, and for the first time the galaxy understood the truth. Underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. Elena gazed at the stars, her eyes steely. "The forge of war has tempered us. Soon the galaxy will learn the full meaning of fear." The fragile ones had burned brighter than any star. And they were only beginning. The galaxy had trembled once, twice. But nothing could prepare it for the full force of human resolve. Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes scanning the star-strewn void. Entire coalitions had gathered in secret, fearing humanity's cunning. Yet they underestimated the humans again. "Captain," Ramek said, tension in his voice, "they've formed a united fleet. Norians, Kalthari, Vornax, and several smaller sectors. Tens of thousands of ships. They intend to eliminate us in one decisive strike." Elena's expression was calm, almost serene. "Good," she said. "Then it's time they learn what humanity truly is." Over the past cycles, humans had not only survived, they had adapted, infiltrated, and gained technologies from every species they encountered. They had learned alien tactics, weapons, and strategies. Every system they controlled had been fortified. Every fleet they commanded was prepared not merely to fight, but to dominate. The humans did not meet the coalition head-on. That would have been folly. Instead, they orchestrated a grand deception, projecting false fleet signatures across multiple sectors, scattering decoys and rerouting energy flows to mislead every sensor. Coalition commanders, expecting weakness, sailed into traps laid with the precision of a master chess player. As the battle commenced, the humans struck from multiple angles simultaneously. Tiny human craft darted between massive warships, hacking systems, redirecting energy, and causing confusion. Capital ships disabled each other without human casualties, drones acted as both shield and spear, and the Resolute, nimble and lethal, became a phantom in the chaos, striking the most critical targets at the exact moment of vulnerability. Virwach, commanding the Norian forces personally, watched in horror as his flagship's shields flickered and then died. "Impossible," he shouted. "How can such small creatures—" Elena's voice cut across the comms, calm and decisive. "Because you thought size mattered. You assumed survival was strength. You forgot that humans endure, adapt, and outthink. That is the difference between your empires and ours." Entire fleets fell into human-devised traps. Warp lanes were collapsed remotely, cutting off retreat. Mines and asteroid fields turned the battlefield into a labyrinth of destruction. The coalition commanders' own tactics, once unbeatable, now worked against them, manipulated by algorithms humans had perfected in the shadows of enemy systems. Inboard the Resolute, Elena coordinated every move personally. Activate the Klystron vector at full power. Overload the enemy junctions. Draw their command ships into the central field. Precision, timing, adaptation. Always adaptation. The effect was immediate. Coalition command vessels collided, weapons fire misfired, and communication lines scrambled. Panic spread, orders contradicted themselves, and chaos became a weapon wielded by humans more effectively than any superweapon. By the end of the first engagement, entire enemy fleets had either fled or been destroyed. The galaxy watched in awe and terror. Humanity, once dismissed as fragile and insignificant, had proven itself capable of overwhelming the greatest powers simultaneously, without losing a single major human vessel. In the aftermath, Elena addressed the remnants of the coalition, broadcast across every sector. "Your empires underestimated us. You assumed your fleets, your technology, and your pride could protect you. They could not. Humanity survives not by chance, not by strength, but by intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Consider this your lesson. Underestimate us no longer, for the fragile ones have become unbreakable." Across the galaxy, systems that had once laughed at humans now knelt, not in subjugation but in respect, awe, and fear. Alliances shifted. Trade routes, once controlled by alien powers, opened to human diplomacy. Even the most ancient species approached humanity cautiously, recognizing a new apex in galactic hierarchy. Ramek, exhausted but exhilarated, whispered, "Captain, we've done it. We're not just surviving anymore. We're the ones they watch." Elena smiled faintly, her gaze still fixed on the stars. "We are. But this is only the beginning. Humanity's strength lies not in our ships, our weapons, or our fleets. It lies in our minds, our adaptability, and our refusal to bow. Let the galaxy remember this moment. When humanity declared total war, the meaning of fear changed forever." And somewhere deep in the outer sectors, alien commanders whispered in disbelief and dread. The fragile species from Earth, the humans, had rewritten the rules of war, diplomacy, and survival. They had risen from obscurity to apex status, not through sheer power but through cunning, endurance, and a singular, relentless will to thrive. The stars, cold and indifferent, shone on. Yet humanity had left its mark. A new era had begun, one where humans were no longer underestimated, no longer fragile, and no longer content to merely survive. They were the apex. They were the ones who reshaped the galaxy. And the galaxy would never forget it.